I remember saying, let's test it in New York, because if you make it in New York, you make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was the goal, to try to succeed in New York. New York has a huge competition. I think BU has a lot of competition. So I always ask, and so even now, 4 years later, I ask myself, what makes us stand out? What I challenge my team all the time. How are we going to differentiate our brand versus everyone else? Because it's not easy to make it in US. There's just
Right.
too much competition. But how do we make sure that we stand out? Um, Again, Josh, I think Canada is a different market, but New York is totally awesome to see how the brand really resonates well. And it just not just in New York, by the way. It's expanding to other states.
No, that's really interesting. Everyone, I'm super excited. We're on episode 32 of the Conquer the Mind podcast. I say it over and over again, but if you don't know, if you can conquer your mind, you can conquer anything in this world. And today, another podcast I'm super excited for. And not gonna lie, I always get really nervous when I'm speaking to another CEO. So I'm very excited to have your time, Irena, today. Irena is the CEO of BYou Laser Clinics, one of the leading medical aesthetics providers in the United States. And they're really on a mission to help their clients accomplish, their personal, their professional goals through these very safe, effective, and non-invasive treatments. So I'm very excited to dive into Irena, your career, your insights, your experiences. BYou. Thank you so much for joining me today, Irena.
Josh, thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this. I was looking forward to this. I'm very excited. So let's get started.
Let's go, everyone. So, if you don't know, a lot of the episodes, I really like to dive into perspective, of successful individuals like yourself. I think, especially nowadays, we look at successful people and, we kind of discount their success to a certain extent. So I really like to kind of dive into like your career, your experiences, because, you started off somewhere and now you're a very successful CEO. So trying to understand how you actually got there. And from my understanding, Irena, you actually have a very, very interesting background, immigrating from Russia at a very early age, at 9 years old, I believe. So can you tell us about, like, at a young age, for most of us, 9 years old, I don't even remember what I was doing at 9 years old, to be honest. So do you have any memory of like childhood memories, like making the move over to America? What was that whole experience like,
I
if you
just,
remember it?
the minute you mentioned that, I think I remember the excitement part.
Yeah.
Moving to a country or land full of opportunities. That's what we're told from our grandparents, our parents. Hey guys, you're going to US. We seem to in today's day we seem to forget that we are in a really the best country to be at, with
Mhm.
lots of opportunities to offer. Each individual who comes in here, me as an immigrant who came here, I was really focused a lot on becoming the best at what I am. So
Mhm.
the best student, graduating high school successfully, getting into university, making sure my parents are proud. Because the one thing I've always heard from my parents is, we made this change for you. We made this change to make sure that you're successful.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to have that I still have that mindset, and I continue to, actually, I continue to speak to my children about it. I've always told them, listen, guys, you guys are not immigrants, but I am an immigrant, and I remember that it's
Mhm.
important to understand that U.S. is full of opportunities, and there's so much more to offer.
Hmm. No, I really like that, Irena. And this whole idea of like being the best at whatever it is that you want to do, whether, it's fitness, start a business, maybe just be the best mother there is. How did you like start to develop this mindset, with the whole idea of the podcast, conquer the mind, and you can really conquer anything? It sounds like you really implemented that mindset into your own life with the understanding that you can be the best at whatever it is you want. What was it that like was ingrained into your mindset that, Irena, you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to?
Again, I'm going to go back to the time that when we just immigrated. I think the mindset, we're leaving the country, we're moving into a brand new country. We're
Yeah.
guests in that country for a long time. Guests meaning until we learn the language, until we understand where we are. So how do we survive? So how do we survive in the country? And I've seen my parents survive. Listen, they moved, they immigrated in their mid 40s,
Mhm.
had 2 jobs, 3 jobs without any languages, and then they had to take a course. They had to feed their family. So seeing all of that, I think, made me even more stronger to and appreciative, to understand. You
Mhm.
know what? If I came to this, to this country, and if I'm blessed to learn at such a young age the language, it will become mine. And then the mindset, I remember my mom and my grandma and everybody around me was saying, is you can be anybody. This is
Mhm.
the land of opportunity. And
Yeah.
having that, is important. We didn't have social media, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have any of those strong-minded influencers that our children have in today's day.
Mhm.
So again, just motivating yourself at, this is the land of opportunity. I'm going to make something out of myself, and I will show my parents, so they're proud of me, that they made the right choice by bringing their children and changing that thing. I also would say, Josh, um, I remember the story when I got, in university, I got a full scholarship to go to the university. I remember taking 3 trains from New York and just coming home and telling my father, like, "Oh, Dad, I got full scholarship." And he, with his Russian accent, "What does that mean? I gotta pay for the books?" So even that, even the way he approached it, another, in today's day, that's a tough approach. But as a
Yeah.
parent, but he approached it that way, and I'm like, okay, all right, I see where you're going with this. We'll prove you with the good grades. So again, I have a passion for numbers. I have a passion for people. I love working with people. I love working with numbers, and I've had that since high school, university years.
Yeah.
And I think having those two components and really help me get me where I am right now.
Hmm. Wow, Irene, I'm fired up. That was really awesome, and I totally relate to that. Something that I really credit a lot of my success to is from an early age, my mother always told me like you can really do whatever it is you want to be. And I remember at a young age, I was always saying, "But the other kids are doing it this way or doing things that way." And
Yeah,
she always said like, if you want to be like average, you can follow the crowd, but leaders carve their own path. They do their own thing, and at a young age, I never really understood it. And I would get very frustrated because I'd be like, I just want to fit in with the crowd. I just want to be with my friends. And, she was very supportive of me hanging out with friends and all this. But when people weren't making the right decisions, she was very much of leaders make their own decisions. They don't follow the crowd. They have their values and they stick to that. And that's something I'm very, very grateful for. And it sounds like it played a strong role in your life as well, Irina. But it sounds like a little bit different dynamic where they're really pushing you extremely hard. And I really like that story. You take 3 trains. I can't imagine how excited you are getting that news. And then your father saying, well, how much do we have to pay for this? I'd be curious, Irina, in terms of like your success over the years, you've accomplished massive success as a CEO. Do you credit a lot of success to external factors like your family pushing you? Or was a lot of it like internally where things happen and you always internally wanted the success? Or how much of your success do you credit to external versus internal factors?
I would say 50-50. First of
Okay.
all, I've always said, and I looked at this as a franchise model as well.
Yeah.
It's the foundation first, the foundation that your parents built in you, into the family. So when I see them, they're the biggest mentors in 1990s. Really, who were your mentors? There were no influencers. There was no social media. So the foundation that the parents built into you, so you tend to look at them and say, you know what? I really want to do better. What the skills they built in you, saying, you know what, you can be anybody here. And I
Mm.
also believe that it has to come within. It
Yeah.
has to, so it's a 50-50. You have to want it. So I wanted it. When I saw my parents work 2 jobs a day, and nighttime they did 6 to 9 a college to get the language, to make sure they
Mm.
done, So when I seen all those things, I said, no, I have to, now that I'm, a certain age, I'm learning English, I'm going to high school in US, I'm graduating, I'm going into university, I can actually become someone. So
Yeah.
it's you wanting it, you believing in yourself, and then implementing the skills that your parents have taught you. I think those two things, combination of both, is really equal to success. Am I successful? I think there's still a lot of opportunity to go. Success can be measured different ways, but Am I getting to where I want to be, where I envision myself? Absolutely.
Mhm. No, I love that, Irina. And that's one of the themes I've honestly recognized on the podcast with some of the most successful people. They're very humble in terms of their success and always are on that path of nonstop education, nonstop growth, nonstop learning. And
Mhm.
that's something that I find very inspirational and something that I aspire to as I kind of continue to grow. I want to continue to have that curiosity, that knowledge, that education that I think is very, very interesting. So Irina, I'd be curious, you had kind of, I really like that idea of 50-50 in terms of 50% internal and 50% kind of external, having your parents build that foundation, build that background. But let's talk about some of the people out there that they don't necessarily have that internal support structure.
Mhm.
So, a lot of people, they may be out there, maybe they want to be successful, but they may not have like that internal structure. So they're
Mhm.
trying to like go through the motions, trying to find it internally, but what would be like your best advice to find that internal motivation? You're in your 20s, 30s, maybe even 40s, trying to figure out what you're passionate about. What's like your advice to like chase those passions? Because for me, I feel like life doesn't necessarily start till you figure out that why, that passion, that purpose. So what is the key to find that passion, that purpose, in your opinion, Irina?
I would say find a skill. I always said this, and I tell this to my 17-year-old even now. Find a skill or find something, that topic that you're very interested in and you have fun doing it. For example, there's people that work 9 to 5 in the corporate world, and when
Hmm,
you see them, they're like high positions, but when you see them, they don't look happy, and they're
right,
in that position for 7 to 8 years, 10 years.
right.
Because if they were passionate and happy doing what they're doing, I think they would have been moving up the ladder to the next step. So I always say this to anybody I meet, or even to my employees. I always try to identify with my team which ones, what skill sets them apart. And then I sort of go after that skill and make sure that they're successful in that skill. Because once there's certain there's certain people qualify or do better in certain things, communication versus another person who really does well just sitting at the computer. You have to find what you're good at and really focus on that. uh,
Hmm,
Again, follow your passion and don't give up. People easily give up because of
hmm,
the fact that I have to pay the bills. I have a sense of urgency of, I gotta make sure I get this income to. Sometimes it's not about the money. It's hard to say in today's day it's not about the money, but
yeah,
it's about really enjoying what you're doing. And then you realize it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not. It tends to become part of you, who you are, and then you learn how to grow within that position
hmm,
because you tend to become so much better at it that it's no longer a must or I have to.
yeah.
You enjoy it and you become successful with it.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really powerful, Irina, and something I feel like we related to when we spoke previously to this podcast episode is just the idea of finding that passion in your life, and the profit will come if you have the passion. I always feel like when you face those gray days, some of those tougher days, if you don't have that passion, it's really hard to stick with it. But when you have like the mission, the values, what you stand for, there's going to be a lot of tough days along the journey. But when you have that why, that big picture statement, it's a lot easier to get through some of those shorter days, I would say, in my opinion. But Irina, I always kind of allude to this statistic where it's like over 90% of people don't necessarily know their mission, their why, their passion, their purpose. How does someone, go about developing their passion, finding these different skills? There's so many distractions in life. You alluded to the social media, the TikTok. How does someone put a pause and just say, what do I want to accomplish in this
I
life?
think they have to try other things, they have to
Yeah.
jump from one thing to another. Unfortunately, I would say you won't know until you try it.
Hmm.
You're gonna have to know. You're gonna have to try numerous different things, and it goes back to becoming a bit of a risk taker.
Okay.
And that's tough for some people to accept. But you have to be a bit of a risk taker, and believe in yourself.
Hmm.
Believe it, like, okay, let me try this. If I want to start making pizzas,
Yeah.
and I'm realizing my pizza doesn't come out as I would want it to come out, maybe I'm not a pizza person, let me go and start making donuts. Whatever it is, you cannot give up. In
Hmm.
today's day, by looking at what's happening right now with the economy, with politics, with everything that's happening around the world, even us as CEOs, we
Hmm.
tend to look at our business and realize that the business is not the same as 3 years ago.
Hmm.
So going back to the word changing things up is very important. Uh,
Hmm.
we might be passionate in our brand. I'm very passionate in my brand, but maybe my brand is going a different direction. So change is needed. So
Hmm.
I think having not being afraid of making those changes is actually a strong. I think it's a very strong thing to do. I think feeling that what, let me change it up. Let me make a couple of tweaking or adjustment to the business, or let me changing things up to my role. If you're having if your job Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and I'm not happy or I'm not seeing, let me change it up. Let me maybe ask for a part-time and try something else. Let me go back to university and study another course that I have a passion for. It's okay. I think I remember the Wendy's founder. Was it the Wendy's founder who became successful in his 70s? So, I mean, age is just a number. You can become successful. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50. As
Yeah.
long as you don't look back and say, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Hmm. No, I think that's really, really awesome advice, Irina. And I was just listening to like the Starbucks CEO. I think it was like during COVID when all the businesses shutting their doors, freaking out. The CEO is literally going like store to store and getting specific customer feedback from all these different people. And I think, as you allude to, you see the news, people are saying, boo-hoo, this CEO, he's not paying his employees enough. But there's so many other things going on behind the scenes, the millions of jobs that these people are creating. And I think that's really interesting, Irina. As a powerful CEO, you're not afraid to make changes at the top. And even when the economy is changing, life's changing, you're still making these big adjustments to your business. Very similar to a candidate. Maybe they're thinking about franchising. They have to evaluate all this information thrown at them at once to eventually make a decision. For a lot of candidates, they suffer from analysis paralysis. They want to get all the information and think of reasons to say no. And Irina, as a CEO, there's pros, there's cons to each decision you make. How do you go about like processing information and figuring out this is the decision I want to make and not necessarily continually second guessing it?
Going back, I would say a lot of analytics. I like
Yeah.
numbers, so I look at the analytics. But sometimes you're right; you can get very deep into it
Yeah.
that you have to sort of step away. I always say the decisions I make, I go back to the original root of why I've decided to tap into the U.S. market, why I've decided to, me and my partners decided to grow BU or to launch BU.
Mm,
Staying true to your identity with making the decisions that right now, according to the market, the financial market, according to the way the business is doing now, is important. So whatever the decisions you make, whatever the decisions that I make, I always stay true to the brand. I
mm,
always want to make sure I protect the brand because it has a certain niche that other competition doesn't. So
mm,
what is it? And when I make the decisions, I'll look at the analytics, but that component has a lot to do with it. And where do I want to go with it? Will
mm,
I be happy with with the decisions I make down the road in 3 to 5 years? Is
mm,
is 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 the question I ask myself.
mm. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
How do you kind of ask yourself in terms of like figuring out your overall happiness on kind of like that long-term scale? Does that all kind of going back to figuring out what your passion, that why is, or when you're evaluating that decision in the present moment, how are you figuring out this is going to make me happy, 3, 5 years down the line?
You know what? Before opening BU, I remember saying I will tap into the franchise market only 5 years after BU
Yeah.
corporate locations, and I've tapped into the franchise market a year after. So I always said I will be happy after I have three corp locations.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, I had two corp locations and I have the rest are franchise. So of course, how do you measure happiness? There's so many. To me, happiness is, at least for my brand, is when I continue to be innovative, when I continue to stand, the brand continues to stand out.
Yeah.
We continue to be on trend. I also would say that the seeing, I think customer retention is where my happy moments are. When
Yeah.
I get to see that customer come back to us.
Mm,
I did laser with you a year ago, but I want to do fillers and I want to do Botox and I want to change how my body looks. I
mm,
think, there's so many different components to looking at this from a CEO standpoint of view and saying, wow. Also, what makes me happy is knowing that I've had people, the team that I've worked with,
mm,
head office that helped me build the brand are still with me.
yeah.
So it's not only from the clients, the way I separate my clients, the way I sort of define what clients are in BU world, I would say is my clients first are the BU clients. It's
Mm,
like I split them in three. So it's a BU client,
okay.
my team, BU team that works behind the scene is my clients, and then the franchise partners. I don't call them franchisees, but the franchise partner is our clients. So the way we sort of look at this is in three different components. Because
Yeah.
if BU customers are happy, they're coming back to us.
Mm,
BU is doing well. We've done our job there. If
yeah.
the head office team, if we treat them well and we ensure that the culture is right, and our culture is work-life balance, I've implemented that. Is that right? Then the team is happy. The customers feel that energy when they enter into BU. And
Mm,
then lastly, I would say the franchise partners. If franchise partners are happy that the franchise business continues to expand and they continue to invest more into locations and everything looks good.
mm. That's awesome, Irina. And I love how you kind of like separate into those three buckets because it is always interesting because you can have a successful business, but once you get into the business of franchising, that business is now, three different buckets as you alluded to. And how do you balance focusing on each one of those? Because as you know, you start to grow your franchise, you need strong franchisees to continue to grow that franchise. So I think that's really powerful. And Irina, one of the things that you mentioned that I think is really interesting, because I think when anyone looks to franchising, corporate America, whatever it may be, it's kind of like, what is the room for growth and what does the culture look like? And one of the things that I think, Irina, you do so interesting at BU that I don't really see at whether it's corporate America or whatever it may be, you kind of, when you bring on new talent to your team, one of the things you say is if you start at the front desk, that's definitely not where you're going to end up. You believe in your team, their growth, and if they put in the hard work, there's really no end to their growth limits. And you kind of alluded to BU is going to change over the years and develop and grow. And are those employees going to grow and develop with the firm as well? So how do you develop this like innovative, really cool culture where you're trying to lift your team members up rather than, team members being scared of the CEO, for example?
Yeah, we have an open door policy first of all with the CEO, so I think
Awesome.
it's important. What it shows me, I myself come from a corporate world. I worked for Pandora Jewelry. I
Mhm.
worked for numerous different retail corporate, so I know how it works. And sometimes when you work for big corporate companies, your voice is not heard. So I thought when again, BU is comparison to those brands, BU is a little smaller, but everyone's voice matters. So
Mhm.
that's something that I've implemented. Also, I go back to what I've said. I think originally is follow your passion. So once you identify let's say a front desk person, and you see how good she is, you tend to learn what her passion is. I've mentioned Josh in the beginning. I love numbers and I love people, and identifying their skills. And this goes back to looking at learning what exactly a social media person does well. Hey, maybe she can do better. And learning what her passions and her skills are, and how do I combine those two and make her grow with BU, because I need her to feel there is room to grow. And if BU is growing, and also all the hard work that they're putting into, they really need to feel that it's happening. They really
Mm.
need to feel like they're part of it. I think it's important to know it's not a one-man show. It's really not. I always tell my team, I'm just a little brain behind the scene. Me and my partner are just behind the scene. They're executors, and the face and the voice of BU are my team. And that's why I consider them also as, the customers.
Yeah. No, that's really powerful, Irene. And as someone that's literally trying to build a team around me right now, these are the things that I'm struggling with personally to build and find, motivated people. I think any business owner is always saying, and any potential franchisee I speak to is, how am I going to find employees, finding talent, retaining talent? And it seems like, just being around you and your team is something that you take a lot of pride in and do a really good job with. And I think it's no easy feat to be able to do something like that. As you kind of alluded to earlier, people in corporate America, a lot of people just are not happy right now. And you've built a team around you of people that very happy to go to work. They enjoy doing their job. So I think that's just really passionate. And
You have to incentivize them. You have to motivate them. We go out a lot of times in the evening. Their choice of restaurants. We'll do things like this. I guess it's really engaging them. Like, engagement has to be very strong. So we always talk about that KPI in social media, but it's important to even talk about at work. Who's more engaged, who's more because they're contributing to that sales target that we do on a monthly basis. And what can we do? We also have an employee of the month award that we do. So there's a lot of little fun things that HR can implement to engage the employee.
That's really interesting, Irena. Yeah, I'm a huge component on social media, so that'll be a whole separate conversation there.
Yes.
But I'd be curious, Irena, you've mentioned kind of like your love of numbers as well as like your love of people. And, you're in corporate America. Was the goal always, growing up to be a CEO, to be a business owner? Or what was it like when you're working at Pandora, all these big major retail outlets in corporate America? Was the goal just to work your way up the ladder? Or what was like the transition to, maybe I could be a CEO now?
Josh, would you believe it if I tell you I didn't even have a goal? I just went with what I love. Really. I just followed my passion, and then I end up being a director of North America in Pandora Jewelry. I overseen the Canadian market, US market, Panama, Puerto Rico, all of those markets. Had 4 managers underneath me. It was a whole team that we really worked well together. I would say again, never a goal. It just happened because I liked what I was doing.
Yeah.
And it came natural. I also always felt that my personality is, I'm not a follower, I'm a leader.
Yeah.
Mom always said that of 3 kids, Irene is like, so there's one that really will, and I felt it. I knew that I would be a leader. So, but what type of a leader? Never did I really dive into it. Never did I say, in 5 years, I expect to become a CEO. What I was told by, I met during my work in the corporate world, I met this one individual who's been with the company for 25 years. I remember her name, Catherine, and I asked her, Catherine, what advice would you give to someone who's young like me? And I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
And she said, Irena, the best advice I can give you, don't stay in the company for more than 5 years if you're not moving. And I remember that stuck with me. So every 3 years, and it wasn't done intentional, but so happened to be that every 3 years I end up always moving up, either within the company or just the role changes, whatever it was. That was interesting advice, but somehow it stayed with me. It stuck with me.
That's really, really powerful advice, Irena. And I want to ask you a question built off that, which I think a lot of people that graduate from college kind of go through this process, kind of looking for jobs. And a lot of people, they get into that initial job and it's really tough to leave that job. So
Yeah.
let's give you 2 scenarios, Irena. Let's have a little fun today. So
Let's have fun.
he's just my sister. We'll use her as an example. She's graduating from UCLA this semester. Let's say she has like 2 job offers. We'll use pretty good economics coming out of college today. Let's say one job offer, you're making 130,000 out of college, but it's very corporate America. You're not really sure what that growth is going to look like. Whereas in job opportunity 2, you're making 60,000, half of what you're making, but you have a mentor in that position and you can see that room and opportunity for growth. What would like your decision-making process there be at an early age? Is it more important to go after the money right away or develop those skills? And how do you balance the 2?
I don't even think money. I would say corporate America, just the corporate side of the business. Learn from a big scale first. Get your hands wet there, and then you can always go to the smaller company where you have a mentor. You're gonna have in corporate America. I feel like in the corporate world, you're gonna have multiple mentors. I
Yeah.
had a GM I was close with that I've worked with. I had a VPs, a lot of VPs, presidents. So there's a lot of mentors there. It's how you utilize it to your benefit. So
Hmm.
I would say go to corporate. Not even the numbers, honestly, Josh. It's not the 120K that attracted me. It's the fact that she would be in a big company working. First of all, it's good for the resume, and
Yeah.
second of all, she can learn multiple. She can wear multiple hats
Hmm.
in the corporate world versus a smaller company where she can move up and always wonder, oh my God, I wonder how it feels to be in a bigger company. I wonder how it feels to be in the corporate world.
Right. Huh. That's really interesting, Irina. How do you like develop that mindset, if you will? Because, a lot of people, it's Monday right now. A lot of people are miserable. They probably spent all of Sunday dreading today. How does someone, it sounds like you actually had a very enjoyable corporate America experience,
Yeah.
or at least we're learning from it or we're making the most of it. What was like your mindset as you're going through corporate America?
Um, First, you have to make the best of it, right? You cannot
Yeah.
just, yeah, there was definitely times where I hated where I was. Like I hated my position, not hated it, but I wasn't happy with.
Yeah.
But it's the way you surround yourself with who you surround and how you
Hmm.
things. If let's say you didn't like your role, let's say someone does not like their role and they're coming in Monday morning, it's what can they learn from others in the meetings of how an individual that they're looking up to and would love to have their role is what can you learn from that role you can do better, what skill does that individual have
Hmm.
uh, that you can learn from. I think you if you look at it from a different standpoint of view by saying, you know what, it's okay, it's Monday morning, I feel like crap, I'm coming into work, it's fine, but
Hmm.
let me see what this point A is, I don't know, person A is doing, and let me see how I can learn from him, and maybe in 6 months down the road I'll reach out to HR and see what I can do to get to that position. It's how you view things. It really is. And like I said, 50% from me comes from me. It's how I view, how I accept things. And if I look at it and say, you know what, I've been here for a year with the company, I'm not liking it, but let me see what skills I can take from them so I can put on my resume that will benefit me in the next role. That's important.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really
That
interesting.
makes sense.
Yeah, just always thinking about kind of what that next picture is and not necessarily getting lost in the motions, but knowing what that bigger picture is. And then the shorter term picture makes a lot more sense when you face those challenges. You face some of those gray days. It's a Monday, but you know what you're working towards, I think is really kind of the biggest
Yeah.
point I think we're kind of making right now.
And I think people tend to, I don't want to use the word fail, but tend to be disappointed when they build a picture where they're going to jump from, I don't know, let's just say a merchandiser to a
Hmm.
CEO, and then they don't know how to get there. So don't build an unrealistic picture.
Hmm.
Don't build an unrealistic goal. Build a goal that is doable, that will make sense for you to achieve, and then maybe have couple of like a ladder, couple of different steps to get to that maybe main goal. I think execution, strategic planning is important, and believing in yourself. If you have those three components, you're good.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really important. Just being strategic, JD strategic, name of the
Yeah, that's right. There you go.
That's really awesome, Irina. So I'd be curious. I want to start to shift into BU very shortly, but I understand, you have the passion for numbers, you have the passion for people. You've really worked your way up the ladder in corporate America. How does that eventual transition to CEO of BU play in? What kind of led that ultimate transition out of corporate America?
We decided with my husband we'll be moving to US. My daughter came and said, "Mom, I've got accepted to Pace University, and I want to move to US, to New York from Toronto, Canada." And I remember just speaking with my husband about it. Well, what am I going to do? I did work for Pandora at that time, but an opportunity came up. My partners and I reviewed it, and we said, you know what? Let's test. We already had a Um, Canadian sister company called Canada Med Laser Clinics.
Yeah.
So we said, let's test how that we know the formula to success because Canada Med Laser is very successful in the Canadian market. How
Mm.
do we take that formula and bring it to US and see what we can do? So we've tapped into the US market in 2020 of July in the midst of COVID when everyone told me, Irena, don't do it. You know how much I love when someone says don't do it? Because it's like, all right, bring on the challenge. Let's try to do it. So
Yeah.
we've done it. We've launched our first Flatbush location, but with the help of the partners, my husband, and we realized we got something here that's really interesting. People loving it. It does fit the U.S. demographic. It does fit the brand. It resonates well with everyone. Be you and own it is the slogan. But
Mm.
Be You Laser Clinic. What is Be You about? Be You is about empowerment, feeling confident in your skin, being comfortable with yourself. We're not here to change you. We're
Mm.
here just to enhance your beauty. So it's about diversity as well. Again, we that's why we opened our first location in downtown Brooklyn because we knew what type of a client will attract. We wanted to test it, but that's how sort of BU was born, and my interest as becoming a CEO.
That's awesome, Irene. And just for anyone that literally born under a rock, knows nothing about BU, could you explain to the viewers what is BU?
Yes, BU is an aesthetics company that offers over 40 different services from laser hair removal to body treatments, body sculpting, body fat reduction, to cosmetic injections from filler to Botox to hair restoration
Mm.
to vampire facials and as well skin treatments, numerous different skin treatments that targets all sorts of skin related issues, microneedling, microdermabrasion, hydrofacials, and so on. We can go on and on with so over 40 different treatments. We also tapped into the wellness, women sexual wellness. That's brand new for us. Uh, we're here to really just empower, enhance that beauty, and make the customer feel confident.
Mm.
BU opened up in July of 2020. BU has two corporate locations
Okay.
and two franchise locations right now, and three more are opening. One is opening in Jersey, in Springfield, New Jersey. Another one is opening in Tennessee, Knoxville,
Mm.
and another one soon is opening in Queens.
That's
So we're continuing to expand with success of the current franchise partners, with the success of corp locations, and I even think just the brand itself. The brand is very strong. The brand resonates well with everyone.
awesome.
We're here to ensure to make sure that our customers are happy and the customized treatments are offered to our customers.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. And it's interesting to see like how many different treatments you guys offer. You've alluded to over 40 different treatments and continually add new products, new innovations. So I think that's something, whether you're part of BU, you're a new franchise owner, like there's just a lot to look forward to, it sounds like, which is really, really exciting to hear. I'd be curious, Irina, we've talked a lot about the passion, chasing your passion. Can you talk to the viewers about what sparked your passion in the beauty industry and eventually becoming the CEO of BU?
It sounds a little boring. I'll be honest, Josh. It's the
And it's
numbers.
yes,
It's the numbers. I think it's the experience I've
yeah.
taken from a corporate world, learning how you can really you can do a lot with a company if you have a strategic plan in place. We
Mm.
really had a strong plan in place. Thanks to my partners, they've tested the formula, the formula of BU in the Canadian market, and then as well people. I've
Mm.
had a passion for people and numbers. I'm going back to that again. With that being said, it was easier, at least for me, because I've had the partners. I have a husband who's an entrepreneur, so it was a little bit easier for me to go from a corporate world
Yeah.
to no longer getting paid every 2 weeks, having that paycheck, and really running the whole show and ensuring that my team gets paid.
Right.
It was a different mindset. It was a risk, and again, going back to that thing that I've said in the beginning, I knew I was a leader. I've never been a follower. I knew that I wanted to take a risk, and this was a time as an immigrant who moved, come back to New York, and really now utilize all the skills that she's learned in the corporate world and
Yeah.
utilize it to her own benefit.
That's awesome, Irina. And I want to dive into that because I'm very curious on, with the podcast, studying the mindset, the perspectives of people. A lot of franchise candidates, they come in and they're trying to figure out how can they go from making, six figures plus a year, a really cozy salary, 401k, and then the next 12 months, I don't even know where my paycheck's going to be coming from. What was like that mindset shift like, and how do you overcome that little barrier there?
You know what? I believed in the brand so much that I didn't even let the fear get to me. And it was in the midst of COVID. Like I
Yeah.
remember I left my job, a high paying job to do this. It was in the midst of COVID. I didn't know what to expect. I've never been in the medical industry before, so it's all new to me. I've never had a business in New York. I just moved to New York, so a lot of risks we've taken. But I believing in yourself, as much as it sounds a little bit cliche, but it's true. It's believing in yourself, and I didn't let. I was okay to accept failure. If it would have happened, I think I would have been okay. Move on. Next.
Mhm.
What did we learn from it? How do we move on?
Yeah.
Because I believed in the brand itself. I thought um, the brand marketing material, the plans, how we built everything. I really did believe in it, and I knew it will be successful one way or another.
Mhm. No, that's awesome. And it's really cool to watch the success grow since
Yeah.
launching in the United States in 2020, which just such a scary time, especially for a brick and mortar type business to have
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
success. It says massive statements to the product, the service you guys are offering. And
Thank you.
I'm curious, you had a lot of success in Canada. What was like the reasoning behind transitioning to the United States rather than continuing the growth strategy in Canada? What was it like transitioning to the United States and that decision making process?
I think once I knew that my family is moving to US, I
Yeah.
think that was like okay, but on another note, I would say we were contemplating between Florida and New York, and I remember saying, let's test it in New York because if you make it in New York, you make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And that was the goal, to
Mhm.
try to succeed in New York. New York has a huge competition. I think BU has a lot of competition. So I always ask, and even now, 4 years later, I ask myself, what makes us stand out? What I challenge my team all the time. How are we going to differentiate our brand versus everyone else? Because it's not easy to make it in US. There's just so much competition. But how do we make sure that we stand out? Again, Josh, I think Canada is a different market, but New York is totally awesome to see how the brand really resonates well, and it just not just in New York, by the way. It's expanding to other states.
Hmm. No, that's really interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of watch it play out. And you kind of mentioned, the differentiators in BU. I think it'd be a good point. Do you want to kind of allude on some of those big differentiators as you started to launch BU? I know some of the things I kind of think that's really interesting is just having FDA approved equipment, working with insurance companies. I hear a lot of candidates kind of ask about those relationships. So what is kind of like the big differentiator as people are looking towards this industry, maybe with some interest? There's a lot of different players out there. BU getting established in 2020, having a lot of success recently. How does someone figure out the difference between BU and some of these other players out there?
Yeah, I think really, and I applaud all the other players as well because I think it's important not to feel it's not a threat. It's, if anything, we're all working collaboratively within the aesthetics business. And aesthetics business is a $24 billion industry, so
Yeah.
that alone says a lot. So we all have a little bit of share of pie here. What I would say is what makes BU stand out is the customization of packages. What if Josh comes in or if Irina comes in, Josh, saying, let's just say Josh has a skin, whatever Josh, the customization of the treatment Josh will get, another client won't.
Hmm.
They're all different. It's not, hey, this is the menu of our pricing and work off of this. The medical estheticians really sit and dive into your needs that at that moment that the customer is coming in. How can we customize that treatment to ensure that the customer leaves happy? Remember, the laser hair customer, if he comes in for laser hair, how do we later ensure that he becomes a skin He's going to want to do skin treatments. He's going to want to do injection. So it's
Hmm.
building on those relationships. It's not just a customer ABC. It's a customer that we get to know and becomes part of a family. So customization. I will also say results guarantee. We offer results guarantee on the purchase packages. We haven't seen a lot of complaints on that. So that says a lot about our confidence in what the service we provide. And
Yeah.
that goes down to the FDA approved equipment that we offer. So yeah, we're here to cater everyone. And if you need an insurance, if there's an individual that's going through a change and needs an insurance, absolutely, BU is there to offer as well.
Hmm. That's awesome, Irene. It's interesting, all these different treatments. Can you talk to us? Why is it so important to offer, 40 plus different treatments, continually adding new products, services? Why is that so important to the overall BU?
I think just not the overall. I think the whole aesthetics industry is like that. You
Hmm.
have to be. It's like a fashion world. You
Okay.
have to be innovative. You have to be on trend. You have to
Yeah.
be always open to making changes to your treatments and understanding what the market is asking for right now. Because people are smart. They're coming in with their iPhones. They're coming in with a whole bunch of questions. They've done research on their treatments. They already know, half of them know what they want. And in some cases, what they want and what they're asking for the treatment might not be the benefit to their skin, to what they're asking. That's why we have the medical certified estheticians to sort of
Mm.
cater to them and customize those treatments.
Huh, that's really interesting because I know there's, the big saying in business is that the customer is always right. But you're kind of telling me maybe the customer is not always right.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We always tell them especially when we listen to their needs and what they want to achieve with this particular, treatment. Then we'll start to, offer, and the estheticians will do a good job by offering and customizing a package where the customer will say, you know what, I understand. Knowledge is power. So, ensuring we have a doctor in house, ensuring the doctor trains the estheticians all the time, making sure my team is very knowledgeable because the client will build trust. The minute the client lays on that chair or on that bed and off and and agree to have a treatment on from BU, he trusts us. That client trusts us. So now all we do is build that trust. We're confident in our results. So that's a point taken. So all we have to do now is just to build that trust, to build that relationship with the customer, so the customer continues to come back.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Just the emphasis that you put on not only like the franchisees, but also the franchisees in their actual unit stores, improving the customer experience and really focusing on the
It's about the
retention.
experience. It's ultimately about the experience. It doesn't matter how much competition you can have on the same street. It's about the brand experience.
Hmm. That's really awesome, Irene. And I know our time's starting to wind down, so I want to try to get as much as I can in these final moments. One of the things, as we're kind of talking about, is providing this really good experience for the customers. And obviously, I'm talking to the CEO, Irena. You're super passionate about BU. How do you ensure that those next franchisees have that same exact passion that you have, Irena?
You know what it is? I would say when identifying the prospect, when we're going through the beginning stages of really just getting to know one another, you know it. You know which operator will be a very successful operator. Um, we have two types of operators. I would say a full-time operator and others that are actually three. I would say a part-time and another one that's just an investor.
Okay.
But if an operator lets us, I will call an operator, I will say, but if the franchise partner lets us really guide them in the beginning stages, and ensuring that our operations team is supporting them throughout the whole thing, and they're opening to listening,
Hmm.
opening to accepting all the protocols, all the BU protocols, everything that we've implemented so far that worked, they will be successful. They
Hmm.
really will be successful. I have franchise partners who are hands-on, doing exceptionally well. I have franchise partners who are not hands-on. They have a clinic manager there, and they check in quarterly basis, also successful. So, and they know their minuses. Well, not minuses, but they know that their absence They will be absent from the day-to-day business, so they will hire the clinic managers that are very successful, are people person, and understand what the business is about.
Hmm.
Will I say again, you have to have passion? Not always, but the passion comes. We
Yeah.
build that passion into you because you start believing in the brand. The 2 week training that we provide to a franchise partner and to their team, they will learn a lot from it. They will learn the passion that we have for their location. I always say it's a partnership. It's not franchisor sitting and really just dictating. Absolutely not. That's not who we are.
Hmm.
And I think if that was the case, I wouldn't have been expanding as fast as I am. I
Hmm.
think it's really building that relationship with the partners and making sure they know we believe in their business as much as they, because in today's day, it's not easy to invest $450,000
Hmm.
into a business. So it's really caring for their investment and ensuring that the brand grows with them.
Hmm. Yeah, I think those are really good advice for people potentially considering franchising. I think, as you alluded to, it's definitely no easy investment. Changing your lifestyle, your life's definitely going to change as a business owner. And I really like the point of you don't initially need that passion because, candidates, they may be looking at a home service business like painting, flooring, and it's not necessarily like I'm in love with painting walls or anything, but you're in love with being a business owner and the opportunity it provides to the family and those around you. So I think just staying open minded and as you do start to learn about the different businesses, is that passion going up or is it going down? You can start to figure out, is business ownership potentially interesting, or maybe corporate America is that better position for you overall? And one question that I do want to dive into before our time winds down, with BU, we were talking about like laser treatments. There might be like, I don't know if there's a stigma, but people might be a little fearful of a laser, for example. Can you talk to me about like those different treatments and like the laser treatments and how does that actually like work if someone's potentially interested?
So laser hair removal treatments are very safe. What I would say is it targets we have a Candela Gentle Max equipment that we offer, we work with, and that particular equipment is targets all skin types. So what it does is customizes again type of a skin based on your skin type, the treatment. It's safe unless you're tanning, unless you have a skin condition, and
Okay.
unless you're pregnant and or breastfeeding and so on. We also within the laser here we also offer with the same machine a nail fungi treatments, vascular laser treatments. There's also laser genesis is offered. So there's numerous
Wow.
different treatments within the laser hair. But what I would say is the benefits laser hair versus waxing is a long term the results, the permanent results that you get to see with the reduction of your hair, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's a big. I remember when I started when I started BU, laser hair was 70% of the business. Right now, the share mix of business of laser hair is 45, because it's just everywhere. It's so popular that everyone's doing it.
Wow, that's incredible. It's interesting to just like learning about how businesses adapt and evolve over time is just so fascinating to me. And really, since COVID, we watched a lot of trends in health to preventative forms of medicine. So it's really cool to see that you guys have made that transition as
Yeah.
well. It's just really awesome. I know our time really has wound down at this point, Irina. And this was super interesting. I learned a lot on today's episode. I thought we covered some really interesting topics. One final question for you, Irina. On our kind of our previous call, we kind of went back and forth a little bit on some of the bigger picture ideas. And one of the things you said that I really liked is that it doesn't really matter where you start. You can't let others define you. And in each life, there's a million reasons to discount that life. Can you tell me and the viewers what you meant by that phrase and how you implement that into your life?
It doesn't repeat it again, Josh. Sorry. It doesn't matter what.
Maybe I'm quoting someone else, but
Say it again.
you said it doesn't matter where you start, so it doesn't matter where you are today, but not letting other people define where you are. And with every life, there's a million reasons to discount why you can accomplish something or why you can be successful. So why should someone not think of those million excuses? just understand that those excuses are going to be there, but how can you overcome those?
Again, going back to believing in yourself, there's a big thing where I always tell my team, if you're unsure or want to make a decision, take a white piece of paper, split it in half, and write all the pros and cons about that, and you will have a decision made up for you right away. So I've always said, believing in yourself and looking at the end goal. What would you like to achieve? What would you like to achieve? I've said to you also about challenges. If someone challenges me, I definitely want to prove them, wrong, and because that's how much my belief is strong. Again, you also have to, I would say, is eliminate fear. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid. With every fail, you learn. For me, at least, with every failure, and trust me, it might look so nice and dandy from the outside, but there's a lot of steps that we've taken that we might have failed here and there. But with every failure, there's a new way, a new path that opens up that really guides you, and you learn from it. So don't listen to others. Don't go by, just follow what you think is right, and be a little bit logical. Implement the skills you learned in school, university, whatever it is, and say, does this make sense? And be a little logical. I don't know, Josh, if this answers the question, but I tried.
No, it definitely covered the question. I think it's a really good lesson. And as the hour does wind down, Irena, if you have to go, totally fine. I usually like to do just a very brief summary for the viewers. This episode was, I would say, a little bit different from the other episodes. A lot of very big picture ideas, and I appreciate you sharing all your insights, your experiences, Irena. I think whether you're someone young trying to figure out what corporate America, what life is going to look like, or you're in corporate America for 10, 20, 30 years and you're not necessarily satisfied, you're looking for those next steps, I think a lot of value can be found in this video. And some of my I'd say feel like I was smiling the whole episode. I've really enjoyed everything that you said, Irena. It just really related to my mindset, the name of the podcast. So I think this was a lot of fun. I think the viewers will gain a lot. Some of my major takeaways were literally what you just said, writing down the pros and cons, whether it's a decision, your goals in life, you got to write things down. It's how you start to manifest these things. The more you see things, the more you know you're working towards things. And as I alluded to, those gray days are a lot harder to get through. And I also like, just as a CEO, as a business owner, you're always innovating. You're continually changing the business model. And if you're a candidate looking at franchising, look at the business over the last 3-5 years, over the next 3-5 years. Is it changing? Are they adapting? Are they investing more into the growth of franchisees? And it's very clear at BYou, they're continually investing more into the growth of the franchisees and putting that as a pillar. So I think that's really awesome. Some of my other takeaways were finding a skill or a topic and having fun with it. Everyone, I always allude to, life really doesn't start till you figure out what those things are. It's so hard to find those. So as Irena alluded to, just keep trying things and you'll figure out what you like, what you don't like. Then you can start to figure out the skills you like, the passions you like. And it may not be fun right away. You look at all these successful people and you say they're so motivated, but everyone started off in that same position. Then as they develop that passion, that motivation just sticks with them so strong, in my opinion. So my last final takeaway that I really liked is just the idea of internal versus external, and your parents really setting that foundation for you, and then using internal, your life experiences to really kind of change things as well. The whole argument on, genetics versus environment, it sounds like it's really like that 50-50 split. So I think for anyone out there, the key lesson is that wherever you are today does not determine where you're going to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So just stick with the mindset, figure out your why, and I think you're capable of accomplishing anything in this world. So Irena, I appreciate your time today on the Conquer the Mind podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And if you have found any value, like, share, comment, subscribe, help out the algorithm, and let's conquer the day, everyone.
Thank you.